Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is John Devlin, and I'm the music director of the Wheeling Symphony Orchestra. And in just 2 weeks' time, we're going to be joined for our season finale concert here by Time for Three, one of my favorite musical groups out there. And we're so excited to be joined by Charles Yang, one of the violinists and vocalists from the group, who's going to talk to us a little bit about Time for Three and the performance that we're going to see here in Wheeling. Charles, welcome, and thanks so much for being with us today.
So great to be here. Thank you, Maestro.
Yeah. So the thing that I'm the most excited about is to tell everybody about Time for Three's history with the Wheeling Symphony, because even though you weren't here in 2004 when things got started,
I was
the
in high
Wheeling
school.
Symphony has this, yeah, yeah, we had this unique, so was I. We had this unique ability to launch the orchestral collaborative side of Time for Three with the Jennifer Higdon Concerto for Three that kind of launched Time for Three in the orchestral space to like the heights that they are now. We were co-commissioners with Pittsburgh and Philadelphia on that, and we're so excited to have you all back.
Man, thank you. Thank you. It's going to be my first time working with you. So I hear
Yeah,
great things and we've known each other for quite some time, but this will be the first time we'll get to share the stage together. I'm excited.
yeah. And we are too, because Time for Three, I think almost more than any other soloist or group of soloists, embodies the thing that we hold most dear at the Wheeling Symphony with our mission, which is to feature great American music by artists that are thinking differently about how to present concerts. As we try to define what an American orchestra should or could be in the 21st century. And you all have such clear priorities as artists individually, and then when you come together you live that out in this beautiful way. Would you mind sharing with our audience a little bit about what you believe about music as Time for Three?
Well, time for three. I mean, it's definitely an odd group. We consider ourselves misfits in so many misfits of music, really. First of all, there's no real music until this band was formed really for two violins and bass. So
Mm-hmm.
we can't go back and find a Beethoven piece or a Mozart piece uh, for two violins and a bass. So we have to actively create that ourselves or collaborate with amazing composers like Jennifer Higdon and Kevin Putz, who
Right.
y'all will hear. So that already that kind of odd formation of what time for three um, is limitation, but with that limitation comes creativity because we just try to find ways to find our own voice, and it's so much fun. We're lucky to be able to do so many different things. We get to play concertos with wonderful orchestras like yourselves. We
Mm-hmm.
play our solo shows, which include the singer-songwriter things that we do that I think y'all will hear as well. And we got to, score a movie. It's a unique way of being a musician, and we're so lucky to find each other to do it. You know.
Mm-hmm. And what you do, despite being self-proclaimed misfits, is filled with integrity, because each of you as individual artists and yourself as a chamber ensemble or trio are at the highest artistic level. And I think that that's the thing that's most inspiring to people like myself who watch you as fans, and I mean, can't wait to be a collaborator, because you're not saying, because we can't do things the way that the industry has trained us to do them, we're going to take this other route. You're doing it because you think it advances the future of music. And that's inspiring, like I said, to people like me and to our community. Could you talk a little bit about the place that you see classical music occupying in a 21st century landscape of popular music and classical music? And you're going to be sharing, as you mentioned, both of those styles with us next week.
Yeah. Well, thank you for all those amazing compliments, and we. But you're absolutely right. We come from a place of uh, musician first. We were trained. All three of us went to conservatories. Renan and Nick went to Curtis, and I went to Juilliard, and we trained as classical musicians. We lived careers as soloists, chamber musicians, and orchestral musicians as well. So we've lived that life. Um, but the three of us, what makes us work so well is we're very like-minded
Mhm.
in terms of curiosity. We've all we ha- well, we the three of us have individually a very different upbringing of what other kinds of music we liked to play. You know, Renan with jazz, I grew up with the blues. Nick used to play, you know, percussion on like pots and pans and trash cans, and you know, has a big hip hop kind of feel to him. And these kind of colors, while rooted in classical music, create what Time for Three is. I mean, we just have this cauldron of different ideas
Mm.
to kind of choose from, or to put in, you know, to create that soup that is Time for Three. And and in a way, having a group that has nothing written for it, well, from the past, doesn't have much written for it. It kind of frees us up to be creative and to kind of um, take those risks and those chances to further, I guess, a sound. If
Hmm.
I'm making any sense, you know, if there's a genre like classical music, which we live in, it's already new to have such a sound. You know, two violins and a bass and voice. So that is what we are. But we're classical musicians. So how do we create for that? And it's not uncommon anymore. I think it's such a vast musical space now in what we live in every regard, in any genre, not just classical music. In pop music, you're seeing so much blending of different genres, and it's a beautiful thing. And you're seeing that in classical music, but it's always kind of been that way. I mean, Bach and Bartok are very different, but they're within that umbrella of classical music, but complete different genres. So I think it's a really interesting time. We're very lucky to be a part of it, um, to find what that time capsule of classical music, what that means in today's time, you know, for the future.
And I, what you're saying resonates deeply with me because, like you, I went to conservatory and trained in how to conduct like Bach to Higdon. And then all of a sudden, I got a job like this one, and more than half of my season is pops, patriotic, holiday, crossover. And all of a sudden, these things that we never trained in, we have to represent on stage in an authentic way. And I love the approach that you all take and the approach that I share with you, which is let's explore all of the facets of music that we love and express them on stage with the symphony because I don't have a favorite genre of music, classical or otherwise. I look for the things that are the embodiment of what I think is the best version of any genre. And I think people will be surprised when they come to the concert, and not to, give anything away, but you will have microphones on your instruments, which they would not normally see when a violinist is standing in a concerto spot on stage. And
Right.
you don't start by playing your violin in this piece, right? So these are the types of things that I think a lot of times in the past, the great artists would shy away from, anything that didn't feel purist. But now there's this new generation of people that were raised with all of these different types of music influencing them heavily, and then the violin or the baton or the bass is just the way we express our musical urges and influences, right? So I think that that's something that's going to be very attractive to people that haven't seen you all perform before. And I think especially since you've joined the group, the vocalist aspect of who you all are has become more to the fore. Was that something you talked about with Kevin as you designed this piece?
Well, you're bringing up so many great points. I mean, yeah, we're trained. It's so interesting to hear you talk about you're trained from Bach to Higdon and everything in between and outside of the box. You know,
Right.
that's what being a musician is, and being inspired by so many different things. And that was what Kevin was when we talked about this piece in the beginning. You know, Kevin didn't just write a piece and hand it to us. You know, he really got to know Time for Three. He came to four or five of our shows in different venues. You know, in
Mm.
clubs. He came to our PAC shows. I think he came to an orchestral show. I don't remember, but he just listened to us and got to know what our sound was. And it's true. Like when he came and heard us, it was in the formation that you'll see. It's Nick, Renan, and Charles. And
Right.
there was, for any clarification, in the past there was another member, so it was a very different group. But for Kevin, he heard our iteration of this group, and and really wrote a piece, you know, curated for us. Much like a lot of the composers in the past, they would write for a violinist that they would know, Brahms and Joachim.
Hmm.
He knew that sound, and he would write for that. And for us, he wrote for the sound that he heard of Time for Three, and that was with the vocals, and that was with microphones, all our different crazy techniques we do with our instruments. He soaked all that in and kind of tailor made this concerto. And it feels very much like Kevin puts. Of course, it's his voice, but it's very much Time for Three as well. Um, so it's a beautiful thing to have one of our leading composers that's alive today, write a very, bespoke piece for a modern group like us. And yeah, it's a really exciting thing. So that's the vocals. It's we didn't talk about it. It was just part of our sound, and Kevin heard that and implemented that into the concerto. All the techniques we do implemented through concerts, um, and yeah, there wasn't much. Of course, we talked about how things might work out best for our instruments, but we were on the same page when it came to creating this piece.
Yeah. And diving into the piece itself, at the Wheeling Symphony, we do a lot of new music. More than 50% of every season is new American music by living composers. That's our rule. Um, and so I see a lot of pieces on my desk. Uh, some of them are new and great music, and some of them are new, and we are happy to do them, but they're experiments and they're not exactly the finished product. I have this piece on my desk right now, and I am looking at it from every angle, and it feels like a jewel. Like the more it's so finely constructed, and every aspect of the orchestration taken care of, every aspect of the way that you would want the orchestra to contribute to a concerto, and yet it still is imbued with your individuality as like solo artists or as a trio. And so let's talk just a little bit about the piece itself. It's not in three movements, it's in four movements, unlike a typical concerto. There's a cadenza in there. The last movement is based on these Bulgarian folk tunes, and one of them's in this odd 4 + 3 + 4, 11 feel the whole time. What are some of the things that when you got the piece from Kevin and you looked at it that you felt as spontaneous emotions with regard to this thing that would become a very important piece in your life?
That's a good question. This piece takes on a life of itself in terms of its creation, its existence now, and everything in between. This piece was, as you know, commissioned, and we were supposed to perform it in 2020. That was what the premiere was supposed to be. And of course, the world knew what happened then, and we
Right.
couldn't perform. We didn't know when the first time we were going to perform this was, So we had this sketch that Kevin had, pretty formed out sketch, and we had almost a finished product leading up to when we couldn't perform, and it was with the idea that oh yeah, we'll premiere it and see where it goes, and it was a different idea of a piece back then. It was still about the cosmos. I mean, this piece is very much about reaching forward, but also with humanistic qualities. Contact has a lot of meanings there. But when the pandemic happened, we rethought this whole thing. We got back together and
Mm.
we uh, worked on what this could mean, and contact really, we didn't have a name. It was just a concerto at that time, and contact really, we were missing human contact. I mean, everyone isolated at home. The three of us, Time for Three, couldn't even play together. We were in our separate uh, apartments,
Mhm.
and that human contact was something we missed. But also during a time where, you know, humans at the same time were reaching for the stars. The technology has gotten to a point where we're at such a high it's such an exciting time. So that was that's what it became. That's what it became, and the name Contact just stuck. And of course, the first movement being the call, second movement being codes, third movement with the name Contact, and the fourth movement being convivium, which means a party. Um, and so that itself was like a really interesting thing. Whatever when it ended up happening was this piece was finished, and the first time we actually really heard it was when we recorded it with the Philadelphia Orchestra, um, which ended up being such a big deal for us, you know. But that was the first time we heard it, and it was a gem, like you're saying. It was like we had played it for years and years. It felt so
Mm,
comfortable to us. The orchestra just fell right into it. And even now, wherever we take it, you know, it's we're taking it to orchestras in Europe, all over the U.S. and Asia soon, and we always have orchestral members come up to us later and say, this is such a great everything fits so well, you know, and
mhm.
it's such a well written piece, and uh, it yeah, it's just you're right, it's a gem. We're so lucky to have this thing that just feels like it's been created for years and years, although it's pretty much brand new.
Right. And I think this is a good final topic. Um, there's a reason that we have to promote new music like crazy because even the most famous composers, pick Haydn and Mozart,
Mm.
together they wrote almost 200 symphonies. You and me are like trained professional musicians. We probably know a handful of Haydn symphonies and like 10 Mozart symphonies, much less the thousands of contemporary composers that we don't even know about at that time, right? So if we're not producing tons of new music right now, what are people who live in Vienna 250 years from now going to remember about American music from this century, right? So like it's beautiful when we see pieces that we think might be in the repertoire 2 months or 2 years or 20 years from now. But this one, I have a feeling, is going to last. Now, the only obstacle would be, are there time for three instrumentation groups coming afterwards to play it, right? It's kind of bespoke to you all. But it's like, you look at this, and I think we both have this sense like, this is a piece that has staying power. And so I can't wait for our audience to experience it for the first time, as I think that there's a very good chance this becomes like standard rep, and that there may be even groups inspired by you that form in order to play this the same way string quartets and woodwind quintets and brass quintets and et cetera, developed as standard groups because there were reasons that they became composers' favorite groups to write for. They work for some reason or another, and then this is an example of that. So we can't wait, Charles, to have you all in Wheeling because of who you are as people. And the culmination of that will be, of course, this beautiful celebration that we have, where not only will we perform this piece, but some special surprises for everybody as we end our season.
Man, thank you so much. We're so looking forward to being part of your community again, and working with you and your wonderful
Yeah.
orchestra.
Thank you. Likewise. So for everybody out there, thank you for watching. We'll see you on Friday, May 10th at 7:30 p.m. at the Capitol Theater, where we have a world premiere by Arlene Sierra called Kiskadee, a fantastic composer that will be in Wheeling with us. Then we'll do Brahms' Third Symphony, which the players of the Wheeling Symphony chose as the piece they most wanted to perform as a group. Then we'll take our intermission and come back with Time for Three with Kevin Putz's fantastic concerto Contact, which we have left out of the conversation until now, but I'm going to say one Time for Three, the Grammy last year, and we can't wait to show you why. Thank you, Charles.
Thank you.